A spectacular performance. Curry from half court.
Sometimes, something looks like it's been there a while. We are here a week later from our previous episode. The second round, the semifinals, the conference semifinals are officially done. All done and dusted. The results are in. The verdict, Hassan was all right. That's what everyone's saying. It was 100%. 4 for 4, baby. 100% field goal percentage. Our co-host here, Wesley, was
Did you take the Thunder? You did. I'm not saying.
Dude, I did.
I'm not asking a question. I'm just saying you did.
I did. No. Otherwise, I was re-listening to our episode, and I remember
You were 3 for 4 though.
Huh?
You were 3 for 4 though. That's good.
Yeah, 4.75%. Still better than Thomas is Thomas 2 for 4, 50%. It's fine. Wesley was
I'm pretty sure it was 50%.
Yeah, 50%. So that's 2 for 4.
Yeah.
Wait, I picked OKC. I picked Minnesota.
You picked
Boston.
OKC. No, you literally picked the Mavs.
You were the only one who picked the Mavs.
Yeah.
Oh, I was. Shout out.
So you were 75%. You were 75%.
I know ball. I know ball.
The Knicks.
You picked the Knicks? Oh my god.
Who picked a hospital? That's crazy. All right.
Dude,
so,
if OG and Josh Hart were more healthy, we're cooking them.
You said, give me my local middle school team.
Okay, also Jalen Brunson getting injured. Dude, I couldn't have foreseen that.
Bro. Just the whole damn
Dude.
team is out. It's like
And
we
so, like, if
literally
only-
we literally said, like, it's literally, I was re-listening to it, and Thomas and I were like, they're bound to get injured. We were like screaming it, and what ended up happening? Literally, they all just died.
No, it's all good. I mean, at least the Pacers will they won't do anything this offseason because they had a successful postseason, so we're good.
Okay, well,
After they beat the Celtics.
literally. Okay, so we'll get to that.
I hope they do.
So just to kind of slowly edge our way to the end.
Whoa.
That was a
What are we doing?
there was no
You
sinister
know, this is
intent.
that kind of episode.
There was no sinister intent in that statement. This is a PG channel. In fact,
Okay.
G rated. So let's start with just the Thunder and the Mavs. The Mavs proved 2 out of 3 of us wrong. I really was on the edge. I was on the fence, and I really wasn't sure. I confidently couldn't say a team, but in the end, I did end up saying I think the Thunder because I just trusted their depth and their squad, and I really thought that PJ Washington, the role players, would not show up. And guess what happened? The role players freaking showed up. Chet disappeared. J-Dub had a solid game, I think, the last game, but then prior to that, he was kind of iffy.
Had his best game of the series the last game, but
Yeah, but it was a little too late.
I had to interrupt you.
That's fine. So that, you got to give a round of applause to the Mavs. Their role players showed up. Derek Lively was freaking manhandling Chet. Chet needs to put on some weight. He needs to hit the gym. He needs to pull a Giannis, get some mass. Who else was really good for their role players? Derrick Jones Jr. Freaking amazing on a minimum as well. Freaking elite. So round of applause to the Mavs. Kyrie and Luka, they really did it. They got the job done. How about you two?
On what, like our takes or what?
Just we're going series by series. So Mavs and Thunder.
I mean, yeah, okay. I guess just quick recap. You said a lot of it. Like, dude, shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. Like, he's been a streaky shooter for so much of his career. He put it together for at least this series. That's one of the biggest things that got him that win. Like, the fact they could give him big minutes because of his shooting ability, like that allowed them. That opens up so much else because of all the other skill set that he brings to the team, being a lob threat, being athletic, lanky, long, good defender, all that stuff. And shout out Derek Lively because he's a rookie. And he had a really great series. Probably one of the best playoff series for a rookie in recent memory, just off the top of my head. Incredibly vital to everything.
Donovan Mitchell was better.
Well, as I said, in recent memory, Donovan Mitchell's was actually like 6 years ago or 7 years ago at this point, which is kind of insane when you think about
That
it.
is actually kind of crazy.
But But yeah, I mean, Derek Lively just absolutely bullied Chet in multiple facets of the game, not just on the boards, defensively and offensively, but also at the rim. Made it very difficult for Chet to do anything, create anything offensively around the basket. And then like Luka and Kyrie were just that was the incredible thing about the series. Neither Luka nor Kyrie were particularly phenomenal. They both had their moments. I think Luka more so than Kyrie, especially towards the end. But it was really everybody else who stepped up and got them through. And then on the other side, it was this kind of like because the Thunder, their whole thing is that they're such a deep team, like 1 to 5. They have supposedly one of the deepest rosters in the league, but
1 to
guys like
5.
Chet, J-Dub, like 1 to 5, like like
Number
like,
one to
you know
number
what that
5
means?
player.
Oh, no, I
Well,
know
number
that.
one
but
to
Or
number
you
like
5
said
on the
they
point
roster.
have
guard,
the.
point guard.
I know that, but you're saying they have the deepest team 1 to 5.
One
That's
of
the
the deepest.
idea.
But like,
One of the deepest.
what do you want to say? One of the deepest, like 1 to 15.
No, that's not what I said. If that's what I meant, I would have said that. But instead I said 1 to 5 because the point being they have one of the most talent. The idea is that the baseline talent on their starting rotation is much higher than the average team. Like if you like the worst players, like maybe Lou Dort, but he's still a great defensive player. That's the idea. But multiple of those guys played down. That's the
It
problem.
looks like
J-Dub and Chet.
triggered by that.
I don't understand what's so hard about it. I feel like this is a very common thing people talk about. When you talk about talent 1 to 5, like the starting lineup, like who has a more talented starting lineup, this is a very common point of discussion. But anyways, when guys like J-Dub and Chet are playing down, all of a sudden, it's all up to Shea. He did what he could. Incredible series from him, but it's not going to be enough. You're going to need a second option. They didn't have one that series, except for small parts of like game 6 where J-Dub was like running the pick and roll and stuff, making stuff happen, but it wasn't enough. So
Wes, your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just found out that this Dallas defense is like for real, and it's like one of the most elite defenses up there with. I mean, it's not as good as the Timberwolves, but the personnel they have is, and like their way Derek Jones is playing, the way Derek Lively is playing, the way PJ Washington is playing, they're definitely a tough matchup. And I think like within Kyrie's also like having incredible postseason defense. Luka, I mean, obviously he's like a weak link, but with like a surrounding four that are I don't know, I don't get their reference, but with the surrounding four that is that elite defensively, then it can kind of cover up what Luka can't do, and when he's not engaged, how negative he might be on the defensive end. But I think we're in for a fantastic series. Hopefully against the Timberwolves, two elite defenses going head to head. Hopefully Luka and Kyrie can kind of turn it up because as Thomas said, they didn't really have a phenomenal series. Like they were all right, but Luka,
They did. I feel like
they
did their job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like great. It wasn't bad. It was just they did their job, I think.
Yeah. But I would say like this series definitely more highlighted the role players, their ability to like step up in the big moments. Obviously, like Derek Jones, PJ Washington hitting those 2 free throws and then missing the one intentionally. That was clutch free throws right there. But I think it just goes down to for who I'm going to pick in this series. It's going to come down to Luka and Kyrie, and if they can play much better, because I think this defense is going to carry them pretty far. But I think they're going to need to like significantly outperform Minnesota offensively, which is not impossible. Luka's going to be the best player in the series, most likely. It's just about if he can kind of pick apart the defense as like I don't know, it's about if he can pick apart the defense at all, because
Yeah, absolutely.
Minnesota's elite. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll do the next, like we'll leave the two best series for the end, like the Timberwolves and the Nuggets and the Pacers and the Knicks. So we'll go to the Celtics and the Cavs. I mean, that was pretty run of the mill. We all had predicted the Celtics to win in 5. The Cavs also lost Mitchell in the last game
It
or the
was
last 2 games.
the last 2 games. I mean, once he was off the court, the series was officially over.
Exactly. So,
yeah,
There's nothing more. There's nothing really more to say. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just,
absolutely.
it was
There isn't really
over.
much. The Celtics were just an objectively better team than the Cavs.
Yeah.
They, in all aspects, offensively, defensively, and they proved that with a simple 5, a gentleman's sweep. The Pacers and the Knicks. So Thomas and I had the Pacers, and Wes had the Knicks. And our biggest problem, I'll start with mine. My biggest problem was number one, just gassing out. The Knicks were going to gas out. Well, guess what? They did. Another big problem I had was obviously they didn't have OG. And this is before them even gassing out, before them even like falling apart. And I also just didn't see I just didn't really see DiVincenzo and Brunson playing like okay, Brunson, yeah, like he's just an amazing player, and he's proven that time and time again. But DiVincenzo, I just didn't see him to keep that level of quality the entirety of the series, and he didn't. He kind of fizzled out, as compared
Meh.
to game like the earlier in the series, like game 2 and 3.
He still played pretty well in the game 7. Him and Alec Burks was part of the reason it was close, even once
Yeah,
Brunson
yeah,
went
yeah,
down.
yeah.
So
That is true, but I guess I'm talking more about like the game 3 type performance where he was just going lights out, like insane.
well, yeah,
Where he was
but
literally
like he still
carrying the
didn't.
team. I couldn't see him carry
Yeah,
the team to a win. Like he carried the team to that win.
I guess. I mean, I just feel like if Brunson was healthy in that game 7, it would have been a whole lot closer because him being out, and then this was also before Josh Hart's like abdominal injury or whatever. So if he was healthy too, I take the Knicks. Would you guys take the Knicks if we know Josh Hart doesn't have that like abdominal cramping or whatever? Because before when I picked the Knicks, I think OG was definitely out, but Josh Hart was healthy. So that's a bunch of rebounds there. So FYI.
I mean, it's true, but I mean that's why I picked a huge part of why I picked against them. I thought they were just a ticking time bomb at that point. I'm sorry to any impartial observer, and this is something I've seen all over social media. Is Knicks fans they're getting so defensive about it because so many people who are not Knicks fans were saying stuff like, it's a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. Like Josh Hart gets hurt playing those minutes, Jalen Brunson gets hurt playing those minutes. They're going to show up gassed. They're going to not be able to keep up with them in transition. All this stuff. And the Knicks fans kept repeating, like, you've said this all season. It's like that's kind of the point. Like the further along you go, the more the higher the likelihood of those things happening gets. And the fact that it has been so like decisively borne out, to me, I think you have to be like just a delusional Knicks fan to not see the basic truth of like the way that the Knicks were playing basketball over the course of this entire season was essentially unsustainable. That is why I picked against the Knicks. And you're right. If Josh Hart and if Jalen Brunson are fully healthy for that game 7, the Knicks probably have like a good 60-70% shot of winning. But you can't simply, in this case, unlike when in certain cases when there's
So
injuries, you can't simply say, well,
you guys weren't
it's
predicting based on who's
impossible to
healthy.
know.
You guys weren't predicting based on who's healthy. You guys were trying to forecast who was going to get injured, and then
Well, that's
predict based off of
very
that.
correct. That's true, Wes,
Absolutely.
because if you go back and listen to the episode, you can hear us specifically say that we think that it's a matter of time until the Knicks get hurt and gas out or both. And we were not the only people in the general basketball space saying this. In fact, it was a lot of people, but the chorus of rabid Knicks fans tended to drown them out.
Well said.
Hopefully, in the wake of this series, Tom Thibodeau will finally look himself in the mirror and say, look, I have a good, talented basketball team. And this next regular season, I'm going to play them a normal amount of minutes so that they can be healthy coming into the playoffs.
Not a
And
chance.
You don't
in the
agree?
playoffs, instead of
He would not
What?
say that. He's not gonna say that.
Yeah,
They're
well,
fine.
yeah, I know,
They're
but-
fine.
fine,
They're fine.
Jalen, you better not get that surgery because I need you to work hard this offseason.
No, absolutely.
He's gonna make him work. He's gonna make him work through any injuries.
This offseason, they're
I mean,
actually
seriously,
practicing
like-
right now.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I would love to see. Like, I don't. Again, because I think this Knicks team is at the point where they're talented enough that you don't need to do all that bullshit in the regular season. You don't need to play them 41 minutes in the regular season to get into a playoff position. You're talented enough to get into a playoff position playing a normal amount of minutes like every other team in the league does. And I hope that Tom Thibodeau is again able to look himself in the mirror and recognize that. But
No, you
We
hit the
will
nail on
see.
that. You hit the nail on the absolute head. The Knicks, we actively predicted for their gassing out, and you can listen in the previous episode. That was a take, and we stood by that, and we were right. You love to see it. Now we're gonna swiftly move on to the last series, the most controversial series, a banger of a series, an absolute thriller to the end. The Timberwolves and the Nuggets. Like, wow. They did it. Anthony Edwards, he's got that dog in him. He had Jamal in handcuffs, as he was saying when he was leaving the arena.
he didn't. He didn't. That was. I
Which-
mean, look,
yeah,
winners get to
exactly,
talk, but
yeah.
he didn't.
Yeah, winner gets talk, but he didn't really because Jamal Murray actually that was one of his. I
In the
think he had
second
a,
half, he did.
Yeah,
He had him in
okay.
handcuffs.
Yeah,
that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. So
yeah, exactly. Wes actually
don't want
talked
to
to him
misconstrue anything.
personally. Yeah, Wes talked to him personally actually after the game. So he,
Yeah, no,
What do you think Ed is talking about when he didn't lock him up or when he did lock him up? He's talking about when he locked his ass up.
It would have been funny if he said, "Man, I got him in handcuffs," specifically in the second half. When if you look at the box score, he was 1 for 9. Not in the first half. When if you look at the box score, he had a much more productive shooting night. But I had him in handcuffs.
bro.
Like when they went on their run, when they went on their pivotal run, he locked him up. So
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, just
shout out,
to start
out,
off,
shout out the Timberwolves.
I think actually there was a somewhat of a similar narrative in this series going on, like kind of on like social media and stuff, as in the Knicks series, where people were talking about the Nuggets gassing out. And I can kind of see it. Like, yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this, but a lot of people were talking about, especially Jokic. I mean, he played 47 minutes in that game 7, and he played I think well over 40
Didn't seem
minutes in the
like it.
last. It did. Dude, he looked fucking. He gassed his shit.
No, what
He
I
was
mean is like
tired. He wasn't.
it seemed like he wasn't even there.
His impact, yeah.
Yeah, his impact.
And I do think I kind of see that. I would definitely say that he had a pretty weak game 7, especially by his standards. I think the biggest thing that you can attribute that to is their decision to put Cat on him and basically have Cat play single coverage on him and try to take away the playmaking while letting Jokic become an isolation scorer. And this is something people have talked about for a long time. Like, this is what you want to do to Jokic. You want to take away the playmaking, take away everything else around him, and make him play iso ball. But it's very difficult to do because A, their offense is completely designed around creating opportunities for him to play make, and B, because he's an incredibly talented scorer in isolation. And so you have to not only A, have the perimeter defenders to disrupt all the other actions that they're running, but B, have a guy who's big enough, strong enough, talented enough, tenacious enough to prevent him from scoring in isolation. And it just so happens that the Timberwolves had both of those things. They have one of the best 4 or 5 man rotations in terms of perimeter defense in the entire NBA, and B, they have Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a guy who I have shat on relentlessly. I think I've talked about how he's soft and how he doesn't have it in the playoffs and how he's weak and how I don't think he's going to stand up to pressure and all this other bullshit. And he proved me wrong. He had an incredible game on the defensive end. The way that he was using leverage, strength, and all that stuff to get Jokic off of his spots, to disrupt Jokic, to make it difficult for him to get to the basket, to make it difficult for him to shoot, do all this stuff. It was beautiful. And I think that basically won in the series, the way that they were able to neutralize Jokic in that game 7. And also to add on top of it, Karl-Anthony Towns just had a great series all around. Not only on the defensive end, but he was shooting the ball well. He was creating. He just played great, which is nice to see.
yeah. I mean, I definitely want to echo Cat's praises because I think he gets shat on a lot for being like a soft player, like Thomas said. But he really, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league that's equipped to guard Jokic. Because I mean, you look at Gobert and he's too nimble, I think, than most players. Like obviously, most people would think that Rudy Gobert is the DPOY. Could throw him on Jokic and he's their best option, but really it's Cat because of how strong he is and how kind of more mobile he is than like he has like a stockier frame and the lower center of gravity as compared to Gobert. Gobert's main strength is what is it, like roaming and just rim protection in general, but Cat is excellent at or probably one of the best at guarding Jokic in single coverage. Yeah, I think it kind of just came down to Denver supporting Cat outside of Jokic not really showing up consistently enough. Like you would get Jamal Murray like every 2 quarters, maybe he would like go off. Like in Game 7, he went off in the first half, but then Ant could lock him up for extended stretches, and then that would just kind of they would have to go to Jokic in single coverage or Jokic from 3. That's another thing. Jokic's 3 was not as consistent as it was last year,
Falling.
which is why he was kind of easier to guard. I would say as easy as you can make it for guarding a guy like Jokic. But like Michael Porter Jr. didn't really pull his weight. Aaron Gordon didn't really pull his weight in a lot of in all the games they lost. It was because Jokic had to go to work in single coverage, and that's as good as he is. Scoring in single coverage, he's probably the best scorer in the league still. It's still not efficient offense or efficient enough to score every possession when just like doing it all yourself. So I think that was the key. Minnesota has all the personnel to guard an elite offense like Denver and just make them go to their worst tendencies, which is Jokic or Jamal Murray shooting over the top, tough shots, breaking all of them. Michael Porter shooting or not shooting. And Jokic in single coverage. That's just their worst tendencies, and Minnesota was built to push them there. So.
Absolutely. I think what you said about just like at the end of the day, a series is won if when things go perfectly for a team, right? So last year for the Nuggets, everything was perfect. Everyone was doing their role, everyone was hitting their shots. MPJ, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, they just were everyone was doing their thing. This series, unfortunately,
Brown is a
couldn't
guy
say
they
that for the
missed, by the
Nuggets.
way.
Can you repeat that?
I said Bruce Brown is a guy they really missed this series, by the way.
Absolutely. 100%. It's just that little bit of extra offensive talent, right? Because like they gave a lot more time to Christian Braun or whatever,
Yeah,
and and obviously Bruce Brown, I would say, is a better offensive player than he is. Defensively,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Brown is he's good. He's definitely really like gritty, and he got a couple of good blocks. But Brown is offensively, he was that like he could have like if Murray was struggling, okay, they could have given it to Brown a little bit. He could try to cook a little bit, try to do a little bit. But unfortunately for them, things didn't work out. But for the Timberwolves, everyone was doing their role. McDaniels, obviously Conley, my goodness. Like wow.
Naz Reid.
Naz Reid, baby. I really gotta say for Naz Reid, I can't believe he's 6'8". For some reason, he seems a lot bigger and taller. But he also
And that's the thing. At the end of the game, he was
He's
also
lanky.
like when Cat got into foul trouble,
He's long
Naz
arms.
Reid was able to step in there and kind of replace Cat as best he could. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, Cat is the best case scenario, but Naz Reid, he's also just as serviceable in that.
They
Jokic
got a
single
really
coverage.
lethal big man squad. They got Nas, they got Cat, they got Gobert. That's a very, very nasty big man squad. Now I guess we can finally just give our 2 cents on the conference finals. So we can start with the Celtics and the Pacers. Why don't we just go in the circle we've been going? Thomas, go first.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess full disclosure, the first game of the series is going on right now, so we have a little bit of evidence as to what kind of things will be happening in this series. I tuned a little bit earlier, but obviously now that we're recording, I tuned out. But I have to say, from what I saw, it's a lot of the same old for that Boston offense. It still looks ugly, but it's still getting results. It's a very weird recipe. They continue to manufacture a lot of contested threes and a lot of ugly looking turnaround fadeaways, and they continue to hit them at an unusually high rate. Or I guess I shouldn't say an unusually high rate. They're a talented team. They have a lot of talented shooters. It's what makes them so good. But again, I mean, right now, as we speak, they're locked in a 94-90 game with the Pacers going into the fourth quarter. This is a pace they were favored by 10 against this team coming into this game. This is a Pacers team, and I think most people probably would have picked them to beat in 5 games. They're on their home court, and they're in another tough dogfight.
Ooh,
It's
point
kind
game.
of been the theme of their what's up?
1 point game.
1 point game. It's been the theme of their whole season or this whole playoffs. That first series against oh my god, wait, I'm blanking all of a sudden. Against the Heat, they had like 2 blowouts and then 3 games that were closer than they should have been, one of which they lost. Cavs, they had a couple blowouts. That's once Donovan Mitchell went out, but before Donovan Mitchell was out, they were all close games. Again, against a team that most people expected them to beat in 4 or 5 games. And one of them they lost. They gave up home court both series. I think it's more evidence, whatever happens in this game, that first of all, this series is going to be very competitive, more competitive than most people thought it would be. And I could have told you that before the series, but this fact that game 1 is looking like this is just more evidence to this. I would probably say it's going to 6 minimum. And it's even more evidence that I think whoever comes out of the West is going to stomp the Celtics into the ground. And it's tough to really do any more analysis in that because the Celtics at this point, they seem to have such a formula concocted for how they want to choose to play basketball or how they're forced to play basketball with the offensive pieces that they have. And it's very ugly, and I'm not a fan of it. And as for the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton showed up once again. He had a nasty shot towards the end. I'm sure if you're on any type of social media, you probably saw it all over your social media pages. Like 38 feet from 3. They left him wide open. He just pulled up cash it in before the halftime buzzer. He showed up. I think Miles Turner is going to have a great series. Evan Mobley, who is not a particularly dominant physical presence inside, was already causing the Celtics issues on the boards with interior scoring. I think Miles Turner will do pretty much the same thing. Without Porzingis, they don't have much in there, and they tend to leave the interior, both offense and defense, pretty wide open for anybody who wants to operate in there to operate. So I think Miles Turner will have a good series. Probably Siakam too. When you start adding that up, if Tyrese can cook against their perimeter defenders like he is right now, like if Drew can't completely shut him down, Drew and Jaylen Brown, I think it's going to look pretty dicey for the Celtics. Like I would still take Celtics in 6 because they have so much talent, but there's definitely a recipe there for the Pacers to pull this off.
Yeah, 100%. I think I more or less agree with you. I think again, it just comes down to like if the Pacers could play how they played in like to close out the series against the Knicks, everyone's doing their role, people are hitting their shots, they're playing well. Halliburton's leading them. I could see the Celtics choking. Like if it gets really close and it gets to like game 7, I could see the Celtics losing game 7. Although, yeah, just because the Celtics are just, I would just say a better team overall, more stars, more better players on average. I'll probably give the Celtics it in 6 or 7, but I could see the Pacers stealing it as well. I just don't know. It's super tight because yeah, it's tough to say. It's tough to say. I'm not gonna cope out though and just like be like, oh, I'm gonna say either team will win. I do think the Celtics will win in 6 or 7. I really want the Pacers to win.
Okay. I mean, I definitely agree. Celtics in 6. I think that Pacers' greatest strength is in transition. Like their transition offense is like elite. Even as like not that the Knicks Pacers series is over, I can like be objective about if I like this team or not. And I really do like this team. Like this team is got some fun pieces like Andrew Nemhart, Neesmith. Those are some like elite players that have kind of shown like I didn't really know about them before the playoffs, and they've shown themselves to be like positive
Man, you a
players.
casual.
I don't care.
Christian Wood to
Oh
Shaq.
man.
No, but like
That's a deep one.
Andrew Nemhart, Neesmith, they're stars in their role, like elite defense, elite 3-point, actually, yeah, elite 3-point shooting, I guess. TJ McConnell, bro, he's
Nemhard's
got
kind of rough defensively because he's just so short.
elite
It just
defender.
makes it tough to compete. Makes it tough to compete on the defensive end, but he's good. He's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fun player too, dude. He has heart.
I mean, the thing about all their guards, other than Tyrese, is that even if no matter how small they are, they're gonna like it's very Knicks-esque in that they'll just like give 110% effort like on every
Run
possession
up
and
and
just
down that
like
court.
yeah. I mean, they were able to make Jalen Brunson work a whole lot harder, and nobody on the Celtics, at least their guards, are as good as Jalen Brunson offensively. So I think if it's going to be like the Celtics offense is going to be heavily reliant on Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, and hopefully like Porzingis if he's healthy, getting it going. Because I think Drew Holiday, Derek White, they're not going to have as much offensive punch as they did in previous years. Like I know Derek White was like their best player in the Cavs and the Heat series, but I don't think that's going to be the same story in this series. It's going to be a lot relying on Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown getting it going. And I mean, with Neesmith, I don't really trust Jason Tatum too much. That's why I think this series is going further than the Celtics would hope. Even though the Celtics have the massive talent advantage, I think it's probably going to go 6 just because I think Tatum's going to have a quieter series than the Celtics need. And Tyrese is gonna. I mean, Tyrese has the guards match up well with him, but I just think the Celtics are gonna have to pull from their depth rather than kind of their star power in this series. So I see it going 6 in the
Yeah,
I
Celtics.
think
favor.
I think
I very much agree.
Siakam should have a great series.
I mean, Jason
should.
Tatum. As much as I don't really like giving him any props, he's having a pretty solid defensive postseason. So I think he'll be kind of matched up well with Siakam, getting
That's
him
true.
fits.
Yeah,
But
I mean, at least like in
that's
this game, they have like Al Horford on him instead of Tatum. So it's interesting. They don't have. I don't think Tatum's main defensive matchup, at least so far I'm watching the game and stuff. It doesn't seem like that's the case. And yeah, like just like if it's such a damn close game and they're home too, which is kind of crazy. So Uh,
I mean, did the Celtics Heat, was that game one that the Heat won, or was that like game two or something?
I
He
think you're
won
right.
game 2, but game 1 was also closer than it was close, and then the rest of them were mostly blowouts.
Yeah,
Celtics all clearly have a slow starting problem. I don't know where
yeah,
that comes
yeah.
from. Just mentality, I guess. The one last thing I want to say about this series is again, no, I think no one here likes to give Jason Tatum props, but I mean this isn't even really props, it's just more a concern I have for the Pacers. They don't have a great matchup for Jason Tatum. I mean they have Siakam. So and it's gonna have to be Siakam like the whole time because outside of that they don't have anybody great.
Or
And even
Neesmith.
Siakam,
Is it Nembhard
Neesmith's
or
too
Neesmith? I was
Neesmith's too small. Neesmith's too small. They might try putting him on Tatum, but he's too small. I just don't trust him to be able to do that job without fouling constantly and getting burnt a lot. Um, so it's gonna have to be Siakam, but like if you're putting a lot in the hands of Siakam to be. I mean, Siakam's a great defender, but Tatum I think he has a slight quickness advantage over Siakam probably, and I think I could
Oh
see
yeah,
him
for
if he's
sure.
willing to be aggressive, taking him to the rack. I could see that becoming a problem. Um, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, like all I see is potential matchup problems for the Celtics. That's the one. That's the one matchup problem I see for the Pacers that I think could really come to bite them. Down the stretch of some close games. But other than that, I think there's so many more reasons why this series could swing in the Pacers' favor than there are in the Celtics. That's why I'm saying it'll go 6 instead of I think most people had it probably going 5. But I think there's going to be an extra game in there.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah.
agreed. So we all got the
This
Celtics
team
going
is very
through.
deep. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This team is very deep though. So yeah.
All
Anyway,
right, and then for the last series, I think this is going to be a lot more of a clear cut winner, at least in my opinion.
ooh,
I think the Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves will take this in like. Look, if it was the Nuggets, I would have given the Nuggets it in like 4 or 5, just because the Nuggets they've been here before, they know how to execute. Straight business, they would have got it done. I could see the Timberwolves kind of fumbling a game or two, just because it's like first time in this air, like a foreign place, uh, the jitterbugs, etc. So I would have the Timberwolves in like 5 or 6. Gentlemen sweep or 6. I just don't think I just don't think Kyrie and Luca by themselves could will this team to win this team. And yeah, win the series. And yeah, they do have a good solid depth as we saw in the last series, but I just don't think like Lively, PJ Washington, uh Derrick Jones Jr. could take on the Timberwolves defense, best defense in the league. I just don't see it. So because of these like short analysis reasons, I'm gonna have to give it to the Mavs and in the Timberwolves in 5 or 6.
actually, okay, I'll go first. This is so tough because I really like Luca and Kyrie being the potentially the two best players in the series, depending on how well Kyrie can play offensively. Obviously, I'd probably give it to Ant, but having potentially the two best offensive players in this series, and they're two players that present any team matchup problems. As good as the defense, as good as the defensive personnel is on the Minnesota Timberwolves, nobody can guard Luca. I mean, Hassan asked like maybe Jay McDaniels or Ant. I just think they're too small, unfortunately.
Jaden McDaniels is 2 inches taller than Luka Doncic.
Like
But
like
size
muscle
wise,
wise,
though, yeah,
yeah, size wise,
he is a skinny build.
Bro,
I agree with that.
bro, let's
But
get
again, Luca's a little injured right now. We saw he didn't play insanely good, like playoff Luca that we're used to in the previous 2 rounds. He played incredible still, but like not the superstar that we know Luca can be. Kyrie, he's been playing. He's had like his moments, I guess, here and there. It's kind of sad that these two are kind of playing so inconsistently because this series would be
yeah.
way more interesting if they were like hitting their stride. But I don't know. I mean, the depth is pretty comparable. I'd probably still give the nod to the Timberwolves just because, like, especially where they have depth is like at the center position, and that's such a like Nasri, Cat, Gobert. That's kind of tough to overwhelm with a rookie like Lively and PJ as your bigs.
Absolutely. Sorry, so just to interject, I think like the problem the Thunder were having were like the lack of size. That's gonna kind of bite the Mavs in the center department, in like the power forward center department, because the size that the Timberwolves have, Nas, Cat, Gobert, they just have Derek Lively really. Um, unless I'm
PJ,
missing someone. Who?
PJ.
PJ
Oh my
Washington
The big body.
God.
Yeah.
compared to like Cat and like Gobert and Nas Reed.
I mean, it's not like Nas Reed is like he's probably bigger than
Okay,
Nas
so
Reed. But
PJ
Wes,
Washington's
here's the thing.
bigger than Nas Reed.
I mean,
I
Nas Reed's
think
like 6'8".
PJ Washington has 1 inch on him. Nas is 6'8". I think PJ Washington's 6'9". Well, so here's the thing.
PJ
Wes.
Washington's
So
6'7".
Carlin,
I would still
okay,
give the
never mind.
size. I would still give the size advantage to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just don't think it's as like striking as
And Nas Reed is
again.
6'10", by the way.
I mean, still, he's not that.
Oh, you
I don't know.
were the one who said he was 6'8" earlier. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where I saw that. So
Fact check that.
yeah, so I think it's one of those things where like ESPN said he was 6'8", but Google's saying 6'10". I don't know, but no. I definitely think in the big man rotation, they have way more size than the Mavs. Like it's not even close, I would say.
I don't know. I mean, they definitely do, but I don't think it's as like overwhelming. I just think with how great Lively and PJ are playing in these playoffs, I think it's going to be a little closer. But my main point is, I would still take the Timberwolves in 7. And I just that's kind of banking on like Luka and Kyrie kind of hitting the stride offensively so that they can really get this defense into rotation as best they can and just hopefully, yeah, 7's kind of I'll stick to my guns. I'll say 7, Mavs in 7, but yeah, that's hinging
I
on like
mean,
Luka
You
hitting his
you said
stride.
Mavs in 7?
No, Timberwolves in 7.
Oh,
My bad.
okay. All right, Thomas.
look, so I mean, okay, so Luka's coming off like a very mediocre series. Kyrie's coming off a very mediocre series against the primary matchup on Kyrie. That series was, for the most part, what, like, was it? I don't even know who it was. Was it just Shea?
Probably Shea or J
It was
Dub.
mostly Shea, and I mean J Dub was rotating onto Luka too. They had Dort mostly on Luka, and then they probably had Isaiah Joe coming into the game on Kyrie at some points. Casey Wallace as well. I mean, so now you're going from that defense to Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and and Anthony Edwards. So like guys who are all either comparable defensively or better than the defense they were just playing against. So if you're saying you're banking on genuine, like noticeable improvement from both Kyrie and Luka, I don't think that's a safe bet at all. I think if anything, they're going to play similar to the level they played last series or worse in both cases. The Timberwolves just proved themselves to be very much capable of taking a perimeter player in Jamal Murray, who we know is capable of putting up great postseason performances, and completely sidelining him and turning him into a very inefficient player who at sometimes looked like he was actively costing his team the game through sheer tenacity, disruption of his offensive flow. Now, I'm not saying that Jamal Murray is comparable to Luka Doncic in terms of offensive talent, but I am saying it's closer than it's close enough to be worth pointing out. If you can do it to Jamal Murray to that degree, I'm not sure. Look, if you can hold Jamal Murray to 20, is it really so ridiculous that you could hold Luka Doncic to the 28 he put up last series? I don't think it's that ridiculous. And I don't know why you would bank on him just magically improving against a better defense. And add to that, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to average minimum like 27, 28 points a game this series. I do not try. I'm sorry. I know Derek Lively had a great series against Chet, like 180 pounds Holmgren, the fucking stick man. Karl-Anthony Towns is not Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren has complete inability at this stage in his career to use. I mean, I was going to say use physicality, but he doesn't have the physicality. He doesn't have the physicality to create offensive chances for himself in the post, in the interior. Karl-Anthony Towns does. He has the ability to do it. He has the willingness to do it, and he's shown that willingness and that ability consistently throughout these playoffs. I think, if anything, he'll be more aggressive against a defender in Derek Lively, who's been known to have foul problems throughout his short NBA career, and who is going to be probably, I guess, playing some of the biggest minutes at any point in his career for the first time during a playoff series, which is always a little bit dicey. So I would expect Karl-Anthony Towns to be really on the attack during this series, and they're probably gonna try to force what's his face from Washington, Gafford into the series, who basically got played off the court last series because he's just defensively he was too slow and wasn't protecting the rim well enough, and they had to get him out. And when you get there, I think that's going to cause them some problems because I'm not sure he's proven himself to be a rotation quality player in the playoffs. So those are my two things. I don't think you can bank on offensive improvement from Luka and Kyrie, and I think you can definitely bank on an incredible series offensively from Karl Anthony Towns. Not just because he had one last series, and to a lesser degree he had a good offensive series the series before that, but also because of the matchup he's going to be getting this series. And then everything else I think kind of evens out, but for those two reasons. Oh, and also like, who the fuck are they putting on Ant, dude? You're playing Kyrie. Remember, you're playing
Or
Kyrie
Derrick
and Luka the
Jones.
most. God, okay, yeah. So I was gonna say Timberwolves in 6, but you said that, so Timberwolves in 5. Because Derrick Jones is not that great defensively. I'm sorry, he's good, but he's not that great. He's not the kind of guy you can leave
Maybe
Ant
like
on an
Jaden
island with.
Hardy or something.
Timberwolves in 4.
Maybe Luca.
Timberwolves in
Timberwolves
2.
in 3. Timberwolves in 1. You put Luka on Ant for a whole
He's a
playoff
kid.
game, they're forfeiting right there.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
mean
but
my
That's why
honest guess is
I think
probably
this is-
Timberwolves in 5.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is much more clear. I think it's the Mavs are a Western Conference Finals team. That's what this roster really is. This roster is not a championship winning team. It really isn't. A championship winning team is like the Timberwolves, is like the Nuggets last year, where they're just deep 1 to 15. Defensively, they're elite. Offensively, they're elite. There's no like main holes in their games. The Mavs have clear holes in their games. The Timberwolves, not really. Other than really Gobert offensively, there isn't anything that crazy. So if you have a team that has glaring holes and a team that barely has any holes, it's kind of, for me at least, it's like it has to be the Timberwolves. It really has to. But I think
I don't know, I
that
feel like
okay, go ahead.
for me, the reason I'm going to double down and say still Mavs or Minnesota in 7 is because I think in that Nuggets series, I think Luka is able to play up to Luka or Jokic's level, and the reason that Timberwolves like just cooked the Nuggets is because they had a perfect guy to match up with their unstoppable player, which is Jokic, and their unstoppable or their defender that they put on him, which was perfect, was Cat. I just don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves have anyone that can really guard that they can't have to double. Like they would have to double Luka in order to stop him. They don't necessarily have to. They didn't have to necessarily double Jokic when the Cat could guard him in single isolation. That's why I think Luka is going to have to. Luka is going to garner more doubles than Jokic did, and he's going to be able to get more other guys involved. And I think Luka's a very similar archetype to Jokic, just like at a forward position instead of the center position. You say men or
Said fat,
yeah, same archetype, yeah, fat.
same archetype.
But I mean, elite passers, elite scorers in isolation that often require a double team to like just slow them down. So that's why I think Luka's going to flourish in this series. They don't have a Lu Dort who's a little stockier who can really make Luka work a little harder. They have elite perimeter defenders, but not like more like mid post defenders, which is what Luka requires. So yeah,
I mean, I think like KD
Timberwolves in 7.
KD was a lot bigger than Jaden McDaniels, but McDaniels was able to kind of lock him up. So I think McDaniels will be able to give Luka a lot of trouble because yeah, Luka has a size
He
on him,
will.
but not the height. Like KD had significant height on McDaniels, but he was still able to kind of overcome that difference and prove to be a nuisance to KD. I think he'll.
I mean,
prove
that's
to
just
be a
different play
nuisance to
styles
Luka
though.
too.
Luka has much more of an inside presence than KD does.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's just gonna bully him inside. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess we
mean,
see.
Win has
Look,
wait, okay. Let me just say one thing before we end up. Just to respond to this.
let me just compare Jay McDaniels to a 2022 Mikal Bridges,
Win has Jaden McDaniels
elite defender.
been shown to be susceptible to being bullied inside. Can you think of an example of a matchup where Jaden McDaniels has let a guy bully him inside and create offense that way?
When have they faced a guy like Luka who can bully them inside?
You're right
There's
about
not
that.
there's not a guy like Luka.
You're right about that, but I'm just saying I don't know why you're banking. To me, I don't understand why you're banking on it so confidently. I don't see what about Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels is not a stick. He's lanky. but he's not a stick. He's a good. What is he? Let me guess off the top of my head. A good solid 210. That's my guess. 1 second. Let's just pull this up.
I mean, Luka's cooked better defenders.
Okay. He is a stick. I'm gonna give you this point, Wes. I actually think I think you're onto
Can you
something.
bump it up
I didn't
to
realize how skinny he
Timberwolves and
was.
six? Can you bump
I
it up to
straight up did not
Timberwolves?
realize. I will. I straight up did not realize that. That's actually a really
Let's
good point.
go.
I did not realize how skinny he was. That makes me a little bit scared.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Jimmy
that's
Dale's
that's
a
actually a
league defender,
problem.
but on
He's
the
like 20
perimeter,
pounds
that's where
lighter than I thought he
he's-
was.
He's 190.
He's 185.
Wow, that's actually crazy.
I did not realize he does. I swear he doesn't look like that on the court, but yeah. I mean, look. I still think he has a lot of tools and he can bother Luka. And it's not automatic because let's face it, Luka last series he was matching up against J-Dub, who is also, I think he's probably a little bit heavier than 180, but he's not that much heavier. I mean, he's stockier because he's shorter, so he carries it differently, but he's not that much heavier. And it's not like he was just backing him down in the post relentlessly. Like he was having to settle for a lot of fadeaways and stuff. But with that being said, like he did have some pretty nice looking offensive possessions against J-Dub, and I think Jaden McDaniels actually models J-Dub more closely than I realized he did. Yeah, I mean, there's something there for Luka to exploit. I'll definitely give you that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually going to be a pretty fun series.
I still don't have the Mav.
No,
Timberwolves in, like 5 or 6.
it's easily the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Put in 7.
All right. I think that's our predictions. We're gonna see how they fare out. We'll see you guys next week.